Hi there, first grade. Rashid and I are back, so you know what time it is. Shout it out. Is it math time? No. Is it reading time? No. Lunchtime? No. It's phonics time. When you see me and you see Rashid, it's phonics time. And I love phonics, so that's why I'm in charge of it. Rashid and I are good buddies, and we love teaching about phonics. So today we want to ask, why do we study words? Why is that important? Because we've talked about studying names and we've talked about studying some other words. But why is that important to us? The reason we study words is because when you really study them, you really have your brain turned on to look at all the parts in words, you start to notice patterns. And when you do that in tricky words, you become a better reader and you become a better writer. So I want to tell you, I was reading the other day with a little friend of mine, and she was reading this book, and she's in first grade. This was not the easiest sentence in the world. But as I was listening to her read, she read the sentence, "I know the answer." And I looked at her and thought, how in the world did you do that? Because this word right here, this word is super, super tricky. It doesn't look like the word no. Sorry guys, all my boxes. It doesn't look like the word no at all. How did she figure that out? And she told me that she studied the word and made a guess about what this word might be. Did you know that smart readers make guesses? They do. They do it all the time. And she looked for parts of the word that she knew. Well, she saw this N-O-W, and she knows that that spells now. And she read, "I now the answer." But being the smart first grade reader that she is, she thought to herself, well, that doesn't make sense. And I know that reading has to make sense. It has to look right and it has to sound right. I now the answer. Well, that didn't make any sense, but she was able to make a guess. I know the answer. And that made tons of sense. So she knew this was the word no. And she and I were talking and we got to thinking, well, I wonder if there are other words that have this weird K at the beginning. We hear k, k when we say K, but in this word no, we don't hear the K at all. And so we started to think, were there other words that had this weird pattern, this weird part that we might use to help us solve it? And so as she was reading, she came to another word. This is the word knife. And what do you know? What do you see? That tricky K and N. So we know when we see K and N together that that K is silent. I wonder if there are other words that have that K and N at the beginning that we could apply what we just learned when we were studying these. Think about the word knee. I'm going to type that for you. This is the word knee. What do you see again? You see that K and N, and we know that that K is silent because that's a pattern that we recognize. So today, we're going to study a couple more names. I bet that you know these two names. Do you know them? This, say it with me, is Cinderella. And this is Cookie Monster. So I want you to take a moment. You can actually go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to study the names Cinderella and Cookie Monster. I want you to use your snaps and your claps, find your syllables, find the small parts of the word that you know. I want you to just study those names for just a moment. You can go ahead and pause your video until you're finished studying those names. Okay, if you're back with me, then you have finished studying those two names, and I want to talk about them for a little bit because when I look at the names Cinderella and Cookie Monster, my brain notices something right away. I notice that Cinderella starts with a C and that Cookie Monster starts with a C. That's what my eyes see, but my ears hear something different. Cinderella. Cookie Monster. Does anyone notice what I'm noticing? Those C's do not make the same sound. Think about the C in Cinderella. Close your eyes and let's say it slowly together. Cinderella. You know what I hear at the beginning? Holy moly, I hear an S. Does anybody else hear that? But when I say Cookie Monster, well, that sounds like the letter C to me. It's making the K sound. So I wonder if other words that might have a C at the beginning also make the S sound sometimes. Isn't that interesting? I noticed some other similarities, or that was a difference, but what are some similarities between Cinderella and Cookie Monster? One big thing that I noticed is they both have this blend in their names. Cinderella, Cookie Monster. So I know that this part of Cinderella and Cookie Monster would help me read other words that have that ER blend. Think about when you're doing calendar. Think about September. What is at the end? ER. Cookie Monster. September. They end the same way. So that ER might help us in lots of words. You notice what else I noticed in Cookie Monster? Take a look right here. What do you notice there? Yeah, that looks familiar. Well, first of all, this is the word cook. And I know that because I also know the word look. Look and cook are a lot alike. There's this O-O-K piece right in the middle of Cookie Monster's name. And I could use that O-O-K, that ook chunk, to make look or book or took or hook. So my phonics professors, it's so super important that we are studying names because are studying words, because the parts in words that we study will help us to read and to write other words. All right, my phonics friends, I will see you next week.